welcome to the show. I'm Sal. Tom King's back. Thanks for being here, man.
What an absolute pleasure. I love this show. I was just saying this to you before we started, but I've just done 2 big cons as Terrificon in San Diego, and dozens and dozens and maybe even hundreds of people in my line said, I wouldn't have read your books if I hadn't seen you on Sal. Sal hadn't talked about them. And they're like, and that's why I didn't read your Batman run, because I heard it was terrible. But
that is not true. People read it despite my protestations. But that is very humbling. Thank you, sir.
No, but it was incredibly, your fan base, your viewers are incredibly good people, and they're incredibly kind. And
yes.
I can't say how much I appreciate you having me on and supporting those books. It really means a ton to me and my family.
Thank you very much. The audience is it's one of the best audiences that I've seen online, and I'm very blessed.
You're a celebrity in my house. I told you this.
I know, with the TikToks.
With the TikTok, it happened literally today. My son was looking over my shoulder. My TikTok, whatever algorithm I'm on, it always shows you first. Whenever I open TikTok, you are the first face that pops up.
Yeah.
And so my children think you must be like the king of TikTok.
A big deal. Yeah, I'm not. It's very low. I got to tell you, it's like it's embarrassing how bad we do. But I like that. That's cool. I assume it's like your kids are just like, well, who's this dude? Like, why do you watch him so much? Like, don't look at him, Dad. Stop it.
The algorithm only sends me dog videos, so they're like, "Where's his dog? Is a dog
right?
Jump
What's
on him
the
while
dog
he's reading his comics?"
That's funny because I only get cats. So yeah, that's how it is.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Right off the bat, I guess we should because it's a dog. I wanted to ask this about the tease you gave for the Boom Studio series with Peter Gross.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what we're looking at, and at least when it's coming? I think September, right?
Yeah.
Or was it 2024?
What I'm told is I've never done this before. The Boom decided to tease it and say Peter and I are on this project to give you a little piece of the first cover, but not give you the title of the book.
No, there's no title. No
title. No, what's it about? And all that stuff will be announced later, probably.
Cool.
definitely before New York, and if not before New York, by New York Comic-Con, which is in October, which is in a few months.
Yeah.
So there's not much I can say about it, except that it's definitely the most ambitious thing I've ever done. It is a high mountain that I have to climb, and I do not know if I can. I'm 2/3 of the way through. No, I'm 3/4 of the way writing it.
Nice.
And it's really hard. It's high level, very hard comics to do.
Yeah.
I was sitting around. I had an idea popped in my head, and I was like, "Oh, nobody's ever gonna let me do that idea because that's an insane thing."
Mm-hmm.
And a Boom editor, a very kind Boom editor named Eric, when nobody would answer my calls, took me out to dinner at San Diego and was like, "Tom, I liked your book," or whatever. And throughout all these years, he just reaches out to me every once in a while just to check in. And this guy's been so kind for so many years. And I was literally like, I was like, I'm gonna call Eric because he's the only one who might be crazy. He was crazy enough to like me before I wrote any comic books. He might be crazy enough to take this idea. Yeah. And I pitched him the idea on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, well, why the fuck not?" And
fair.
We launched it, and it was if I had thought this through, if it had not been a totally spontaneous thing, I would never have done this project. It's putting me like at the center of a target. It's going to make me compare with people who write much better than me. But I'm whatever. I'm stepping up to base and saying, "Pitch your fastest pitch. I'll see how I can do." So nice. That's what I can tell. And Peter Gross is on. I've known Peter since the late '90s when I was an intern at Vertigo, and he was working on Books of Magic. For people who don't know, Books of Magic is it's a book about a young wizard who's 13 and wears round glasses and is destined to become a great wizard. But first he has to go through a number of trials in the magic world. And it came all before Harry Potter. When I saw Harry Potter, I assumed that they were ripping off Tim Hunter. It was a Vertigo book back in the day. And Peter did all the work on it as much for the creators of that character. And he's done amazing work since and written, and so he's one of my heroes as an artist, and he's killing it so far on this book.
Yeah.
So.
All I can say is I'm very concerned because the image that is being teased, and this is not telling tales out of school, is of a dog, and I'm like, oh no.
Yes,
no.
It's very Sarah McLachlan singing in the middle of the night.
It totally is, and I'm like, no, I can't read a series about a sad dog. it's rough, man. No pun intended. I can't, but I'm going to read it because, of course, how can I? This is your first Boom book.
Yes, it's my first Boom book. It's not a series about a sad dog. It's not a series about dogs getting hurt or animals getting hurt.
Okay.
It's not. I say that as the person who, I mean, Crypto obviously survived and is just fine by the end of Supergirl,
Which I did not expect.
Yes,
I was like, oh, here we go.
In the beginning, Crypto had he got injured in the beginning of Supergirl, and I have a dog. My dog is sitting 3 feet from me, blissfully asleep, and she's if it wasn't for my beautiful wife, she'd be the love of my life.
Yeah.
She's definitely number 2. And so I'm not into books where dogs are hurt or tortured or sad dogs. I wouldn't want to write that all day, and I wouldn't want you to read that all day. So it's not about sad dogs, but there are it is full of dogs and cats and rabbits. So
oh, cool. Oh, I see what you were alluding to earlier. Now, okay, we'll just leave it at that.
It's full of things.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm excited. I mean, like, how could I not be at this point? Speaking of indie work, Love Everlasting, you're now in your second arc. Hooray!
Just finished it this week.
Yeah.
Finally.
Did you expect to do 2? I mean, when it first launched, it was like the Substack initiative. We were still kind of like embroiled in the pandemic, and I kind of feel like Love Everlasting was just like this kind of like bolt from the blue. Let's try this and see if it works. But I mean, you've got 2 full books out of the damn thing, and it's kind of awesome.
I expected to do 30 issues.
Okay.
We're gonna do. We haven't announced this yet, so I feel.
Oh well, then we'll just leave it.
I'll do, but there'll be a break. There'll be a break coming. I mean, it's not a secret since if anyone who's seen the Distillery ads, Elsa's part of Distillery that's coming out.
Yes, so that's wonderful.
She's gonna need a break to do some of that stuff, obviously. And she's writing for herself, and I've seen some of it, and it's already brilliant. So look forward to Elsa. I hate the fact that so many of my brilliant partners are now writing for themselves. I discourage all artists from finding any talent in words. I hate it.
Yeah.
I only want to work with artists who can't speak English from now on. That's my only chance. So many of my artists are becoming brilliant writers, and I can't. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you've been paired with some of the best, some of the top in the industry, and that's got to be a nice little feather in your cap. I mean,
the real hard one was Joelle. Joelle Jones. I worked with her, and I was like, oh my god, she is turning into just one of those brilliant artists I've ever worked with. And she suddenly was like, oh, I found a great writer I want to work with. I was like, oh, how am I gonna get who is it? She's like, it's me. I was like, oh god damn it, I can't compete with you.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
And she turns out to be a fantastic writer, and I'm just like, yeah. So I feel like I was like, how do I badmouth you to you and be like, oh, Joelle, that writer here stinks. You should come. It won't work.
No,
but yeah. So, but Elsa and I mean, there's still quite a ways to go on this first sort of season or whatever we call it. But yeah, we finished book 2. Anyone who brings me Love Everlasting, their first reaction is, "What the fuck am I reading?"
Totally.
It's a very weird book. But I'm glad I have a weird book because I write very mainstream superheroes. I write Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. So it's nice to have a book that's very odd and to show that I can, kind of do sort of the Invisibles thing where I can sort of confuse you and go a little deep and cool. But I absolutely adore that book. And because of Substack, we had a huge head start in terms of financing it. So it sort of paid for itself already.
Totally. I wanted to continue to talk about obviously transitioning to the big 2 and talking about DC. Before we get to
my new DC hat, finally, I lost my hat, but they re-solicited these on the DC site, and I bought one.
We bought one at San Diego. It was we had to have it. My wife is a connoisseur of snapback ball caps. I feel like an old person saying ball caps, but that's what they are.
Ball caps. Oh my god.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound like a very clean word. I don't know. They're going to get a warning from YouTube.
I guess that's true. Caps. Yeah. Oh, I guess I can't say that. Yeah. No, but I learned it honestly. It's from the Looney Tunes bumper to I think it's to Gremlins 2. Where they were advertising the Warner Brothers book. And they're like, okay, let's go through the checklist. Do you have your Warner Brothers ball cap? And I'm like, oh, it's called a ball cap. All right, thank you, Daffy. Now I'll know that a baseball cap is called a ball cap. And I'll just look like an old person from the age of 9 until, until death.
No, they have the other kind of ball cap, but that's like $60. It's only $50, so
save money. Oh, I had to get it, but it's great. And then immediately people were like, oh, you're wearing the Tom King hat. And I'm like, I like that. I like that a black DC hat with the blue logo on it. Yeah. and we know that
Do you
when
know there's
Tom
all
Taylor
sorts
wears
of
it.
weird? The reason it's kind of warped-ish, which I don't love the warp. I wish it was kind of just normal. But the
Yeah.
reason it's warped is there's like these design elements, like Batman's ears are in one little thing, and Wonder
Oh.
Woman's W is over here. There's like
What? No. Is that?
yeah, no, that's 100% true. That's why you see how it's not a kind of a normal DC. It's got like weird like,
Yeah. I
little
just thought that was just like
funky
the
things
stitching.
here.
Yeah.
No, this is it's somehow if you look at it from that right angle, it's Batman's ears and Superman's feet, or I don't know. There's a whole
That's a little esoteric, I think, for
the
a hat.
Trinity is hidden in the hat.
That's
what
kind
I'm
of
saying.
that's brilliant and also like lost on literally everyone. Like,
Yeah. Well, every time I see it, I was like, "What? The DC looks a little lumpy." Do people realize that the lumps have meaning? It's
I
the
just thought
meaning
it
of
was
the
just a
lumps.
weird. I thought it was just the stitching on it. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's
No,
pretty hat.
that's why it's not like exactly like the DC Bullet, because there are hidden little bat ears in it.
Oh
See?
man, I wish we could get
Come
back
to this
Bullet.
podcast to learn things.
That's right. Yeah, you get all the Easter eggs.
All the Easter eggs.
But yeah, man. Before we get too deep in the weeds, I wanted to ask, what is final order cutoff for Wonder Woman #1?
I think it's the end of August.
Okay, so
it's
you got some
coming up.
time. Yeah,
but it's still the push has come. It's time to push. We're in the final. You know, this is going to be a big book. It's got big debuts in it. It's time. It's time for people to call their stores, because we sold out of Wonder Woman 800 in one day.
I knew we would. When the last time you were on the show, we were talking about that, and you're like, I did do a little story in there. There is a new character that's debuting, and I immediately told when we were done with the show, I called my comic shop. That was 2 months ago. I was like, hey, get me Wonder Woman. I think it was 800, and they were, or 799, but they were like, yeah, it was 800, and they were like, okay, like, congratulations, you're the first person to pre-order Wonder Woman at this store in years. And I was like, cool. And then, of course, immediately they sold out, and Trinity was born. And it's like, hey, all right, only if you watch that show, folks.
Exactly. And we saw it was a fairly high order. It was a big bump up, and we sold out, and then the next order went really high too. So Wonder Woman is rolling. We just got to keep it rolling. And let me make if you're calling your store, I want to make a recommendation. I mean, there's some brilliant covers, some good incentives cover, but the Art Germ cover is out of its mind, and that's the one that's going to sell out super fast, and it's going to be on eBay. So call your stores and get the Art Germ cover reserved. There's the other. I mean, the Daniel cover,
yes, I've seen it.
Cover, but the Art Germ is out of its mind. In terms of just being beautiful and sexy, and being kinetic too, because she's bouncing a bullet 3 times on it.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that. Go for that Art Germ cover.
Totally. No,
before it goes.
Oh, and it will. We have talked a little bit about Wonder Woman because I think we were pimping out the last issue of Wonder Woman anyway, but I think we'll retread it a little bit because you and I have actually had some off-scene conversations about Wonder Woman, and you've been very vocal about it. But what made you want to get in on Wonder Woman out of the Trinity? I mean, you've obviously, I don't think you've ever had a run on Superman. You had your Batman run. You've done Superman Up in the Sky, which is one of the best Superman books made in the last.
If you look in the background, you can see my Superman Up in the Sky art up there.
Yeah, you were also teasing everybody by saying you have the Mito, the whole issue. You have every page.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That's awesome.
There, that's it. It's a little grid.
It was really hard. A 9-panel grid on your wall.
It is. Well, it's a 12-panel grid because there's.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
I didn't buy the stupid cover. That he offered it to me. I should have bought it. What a fool!
Oh,
what a fool! Then I would have the complete thing.
Yeah,
that was really hard. I do a lot of math to get that grid up there, and I'm a fucking comic book. Oh, I shouldn't say fucking. So I guess
I know you're fine. We're fine. We're past the first 30 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I have no idea how to do any math, but me being like, okay, I got 12 things, this spaces, I had measuring things. Oh, still here. So yeah, that was hard. It was very hard to hang up, but yeah, I look at Andy's art every single day, and I can't.
That's lucky, man. I love Andy's art. It's so great. Once you get a Cuban on a book, you are in for a good time. Just no question. Whether it's Joe, Andy, Adam, they're all friggin' amazing. Emma, they're incredibly talented people. What a sin that whole family is so talented.
Yes, and Katie was my first editor on, if ever, in DC Comics.
No kidding.
Who's still at DC to this day.
Wow. Yeah. But yeah, what made you want to go do Wonder Woman, or was Wonder Woman kind of one of those things where someone said, "Why don't you do Wonder Woman?"
I have to say I wasn't looking for Wonder Woman for sure. In fact, I would say I was looking not to do Wonder Woman, because I don't think I've written her a few times, and
Yeah.
I mean, I like my issues I've done with her. I did some Batmans with her. She was super fun. She was in Heroes in Crisis a little bit, and
Yep.
mostly I was like, I don't have a feel for this character. She's very hard to write.
Mhm.
I write her just naturally. I write her with an accent. I don't know why. Probably from watching the obviously from the movies.
Mhm.
But then in my head, she talks a little bit. She has kind of a Greekish accent, and
Sure,
so,
sure.
and people are like, "Why does she talk so silly, Tom?" I've seen, and so there's that. And Wonder Woman has never been. I mean, I'm just to be super honest with you. Like, I've now read a ton of Wonder Woman comics, but I was never a regular Wonder Woman reader. I never, as a
No.
kid, I didn't have her on my pull list.
Totally. No, absolutely not.
I mean, I dipped in
Not
and
to
out.
say
Like,
that, yeah, the Mesner Loeb's run was one
yeah,
that
I was
I'm
gonna say,
familiar with.
yeah, the Diodato Messner Loeb's run. I mean, I
Yes.
was a 13-year-old
Art.
kid, and it was Diodato, so
Yeah.
I plead guilty.
Naturally.
But also, I'm a big Messner Loeb's fan. He's one of my favorite writers.
Same.
But and I had obviously read Kelly Sue's book that came out recently, and I'd read the George Perez stuff just because it's almost like you have to read that kind of stuff. And I dipped into the Phil Jimenez, and I'd read the Peters. I mean, I guess I read the Peters stuff because I love Golden Age stuff, and I'd read the Kanigher stuff because I love Silver Age stuff. So and I fucking read the O'Neill stuff. So I'd read a lot of Wonder Woman comics, but I was never. I mean, to be perfectly frank, I was a boy in the age when they told boys not to read Wonder Woman. Just to be perfectly frank.
Interesting.
And it was wrong. It was the 90s. We didn't do everything right. There were problems with our society, but one of our problems was we kind of divided comics, and it was already bad enough that I was a comic book nerd, and that would have been like another. I'm ashamed.
Another
of these
level.
things, but they happened. But that's just that was the kind of the attitude back then.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. No, it was, and it's funny. I never really. During the 90s, when like around the time when Deodato was doing Wonder Woman, and so there was that element of like, I don't want to say gratuity, but it certainly was like the style at the time. But there were
gratuity is okay for what that book was.
All right, fair enough. I always had her at like arm's length, and I don't know why, but she always like, maybe it's because she is like the first, female superhero of her type. Like, she's the most iconic. But there's something about her that just kind of keeps her on a pedestal a little bit.
I think that's a basic problem with Wonder Woman, is that a lot of people put her on a pedestal, and it is hard to read about someone who's on a pedestal. It's difficult to write and read about. I mean, it's the same thing everyone says about Superman, although I didn't find it true when I wrote Superman. It's like, she's too good, she's too kind, you ask anybody about Wonder Woman, they just give you all positive attributes, and and the characters, I loved Wolverine, I loved the Punisher, I loved
flawed
Batman. I mean, he's really flawed. Even Superman has his weird sort of
eccentricities.
He's lying to Lois Lane. He's keeping to it, and he's always has to do the right thing, which leads to him to kind of having to building wrong constructs, which I think makes it interesting. But Wonder Woman, you're like, oh, she's compassionate, but she's also the world's greatest warrior. But she's also the smartest person in the DCU. But she's also there's no
too much
there. It becomes. There's no fiction. There's nowhere to go with it because she has no flaws, and I think that makes her a very hard character to write in terms of, and that's why. I mean, I found her to be very difficult in terms of to get a grasp on her and how to write her. It was tough because
where'd you find it?
Well, my instinct is always to go back to the origin story. I'm always going, I just did this Human Target book. And with that stuff, I went right back to the Len Wein, Dick Giordano originals. Like, what was this about? Holy crap, this was about a fucking sweet, cool ass Private Eye slash, 70s. You could feel like the wah beneath it. Like
100%.
That's what I want. I want to do that. Or when you want to go back to Batman, you go back to those original stuff. It's about his parents dying. It's about him and Gordon. Get away from all this sort of other stuff. Same with Superman. You go back to the origin, it's perfect. Everything's there. He's the immigrant. He's the striver. He's the outsider. Come back in. There's all that's there. You go back to Wonder Woman's origins. Oh, it gets complicated, really weird. It gets really weird, really fast. Because first of all, it was made in a very different time, which had very different morality than we did, and it was a battle against that morality. But even sometimes when you're battling against a morality, you're still kind of odd, and it's very much tied in with Marston's. opinions on sort of sexual relations back then.
Yeah.
And because Marston obviously was in a throuple, and he had a deep a love for chains and people being tied up.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff, which Grant Morrison did in his Year One book, or his Earth One book.
Yeah.
I find that stuff hard to sort of dig in and find what's beautiful in it, because it's a wonderful kink. It's just not mine.
Right.
So I you can't go back to the origins like I would normally do. So sort of my normal avenue of inquiry was cut off.
Yeah.
And so that was a problem in approaching Wonder Woman. So for all these reasons, I was like, Wonder Woman was sort of not on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
And I always want to do Superman. I'm like Snape in Harry Potter. But every year goes by and someone else grabs it. This time Josh grabbed it.
Yeah. It's a good book, by the way. I'm sure you've been reading it, but it's
it's a wonderful book. Yeah, I love it. So the recent Lex Luthor twist was so cool.
Yeah.
Everyone should go out there. The Dawn of DC stuff is good.
Yeah.
The books are being great.
Agreed.
And Chip, Josh, and I, we get on the phone and or on Zooms and we talk to each other, and Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. We sit there and be like, well, at least they have the young guns on these books, because like Josh is the one guy whose beard isn't gray. He's the baby. But I love where Dawn of DC is going and how tight we are. But yeah, so Wonder Woman sort of wasn't on my radar. Now, the editor of Wonder Woman, I've been working with her. Her name's Brittany. She's brilliant. And we go back to Mr. Miracle together. We've been working together very consistently for a long time. And she was the main editor on Supergirl. She helped very much guide that book, which has become my biggest success, very bizarrely. Which little to do with me, but I love that book and what Bill Keys do with it. But what we can't sell enough Supergirls. Those things are fly off the shelves. Every single person at Comic-Con had a copy of Supergirl,
which is so heartening, because I remember when we first talked, when you first launched Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, it was kind of like the little book that couldn't. It was just like, well, I'm getting 8 issues, like everyone's favorite 8-issue miniseries. And but and it was immediate, like right out of the gate, from Bilquis's art to the story to the way you inhabited the character and Ruth and all that stuff. Like everything about that book was just like fire. And I remember when it was over and it had come out, I found, and I know a lot of people did, we were talking about this book, hyping it up, being like, you gotta read Supergirl. But I would find like new issues, like it had come out and then it was in dollar bins. Like it had just come out and they're like, you can have it for $5 off. And I'm like, I'm going to grab all the variant covers for a dollar.
Oh, good. Make some money.
I mean, like, I can't not. And then, because I know one day someone's going to talk about this book, and then boom, movie. And of course, like Eisner nominations. And it's a phenomenal book. And
we're up for Hugo now. So if you're a Hugo voter and you're out there, go.
Yes, please do, because it deserves a win. Maybe we'll get a hardcover if it wins the Hugo Award.
Oh, yes.
They could put the logo on the cover of the hardcover for Supergirl, please.
I've lost the Hugo twice, so
no kidding. What was the other Hugo?
I got Strange Adventures and Mr. Miracle. I've gone 2 years in a row I've lost.
Wow, and neither of them? That's weird.
Neither of them. I think I lost both times to Monstrous. Damn you, Monstrous.
That is a phenomenal series.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's really good. I'm not saying I'm not bad mouthing. It's really
no. I know. I'm just saying, like, it's at least it's good competition. It's not just like
at least it's beautiful.
I lost against some collection of a book that came out 40 years ago. Like
Yeah, but now Monsters has won like 8 years in a row. They're like the Frasier of.
Exactly. It's like, hey, give me one. All right, you have one.
Can you do a little worse? Can you just
stumble a little bit, please?
Stumble a little bit, please.
Yeah, but yeah, what made you finally find Wonder Woman for you? So what was the thing where you're like, oh?
So as I said, I've worked with Brittany and I are doing Danger Street currently.
Yes.
And so she's one of my favorite editors, one of my favorite people in comics. And she approached me and she said, Tom, would you, I've been doing 12-issue miniseries since 2018, 19. It's been a while since I've been in continuity, since I left Batman. So Batman 85. And of course I was writing Batman way in advance. So you got to take another 6 months off whenever that came out. So they're like, do you want to come back into main continuity and do a big main continuity book where you're going to have, crossovers and the whole thing?
Yeah.
And I guess I did. I was kind of scared. And anytime you're scared, because I kind of felt like I didn't want to do the same thing over and over again. You always want to evolve. You always want to do something different. You always want to, swerve when you're supposed to. So
Totally.
Also, if you write 50, and I'm planning a 12-issuer right now. If you write 50 12-issue series, one's gonna be the 50th best, and I'm haunted by this. Like, oh my god, what that poor thing. I mean, we all know it's gonna be Heroes in Crisis. There's a possibility it could come back.
Yeah.
But I love Heroes in Crisis. Don't get me started. But
that's fair. Someone has to.
So she said, and she approached me and said, "We're gonna do Wonder Woman, and we have Daniel Sempour." And so I immediately knew that this wasn't like take over the book for a little while until we kind of reboot kind of thing. Yeah. It was like, because they were like, here is the artist who draws all of our epic crossovers, who just came off of Dark Crisis.
Exactly.
Sort of our modern day George Perez. And I was like, oh, so this is going to be big. This is going to be an event. He's a guy who draws like Jim Lee. And that's something I hadn't seen. I mean, Jim Lee obviously did a little Wonder Woman back there, but that kind of energy, that kind of power in Wonder Woman. Because I mean, I've been with DC for 10 years. And I can't tell you how many conversations we've had where how do you solve Woman? And then brilliant people have come on the book, and I've talked to all of them, like, how do you solve Woman? Everyone just has their different problems. And I was like, I think the way to solve Woman is have her kick ass. It's always been my answer. Just have a kick ass Wonder Woman. Again, because I'm going back to, I want a Wonder Woman who's Wolverine. I want Punisher. Right. I want I want her to be so that was part of it. So then that was on the table. And at the same time, I've said this before, but I was I went to George Perez's funeral, which was at MegaCon last year, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And at the funeral, they played a sort of, George obviously knew he was going to pass, and he got interviewed before he went, and I think he knew it was going to be played at his funeral. And he talks about his life and his career. And then they ask him, like, what is the thing you're most proud of? And he says, I'm most proud of my run on Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And she said, why? And he said, because nobody ever gets that character right. I got her right.
Oh.
And most non-narcissistic, crazy non-writers would be like, oh, that's very sweet. And I just thought, oh shit, he's calling me out.
I did it, and you never will.
Yes, I felt the guilt immediately. That I was like, it's like, Tom, you are scared. I can feel it in your bones. and I did it, and you didn't do it. Like, I went out on the edge, and you won't go out on the edge with me. And I was like, fuck you, George Perez, you dare me, I'm coming after you. No, but it was a moment where I did feel sort of like another generation that challenged me. The gauntlet,
the gauntlet was thrown. Yeah.
Yeah. And and so I mean, look, there's no way to say this. That's not arrogant, but I feel that I'm doing well at the game right now. I know what I'm doing. I can write well, and Wonder Woman is, it's put me in the game, coach. It's being in the game in the last 5 minutes and saying, you can throw me the ball, I can hit this 3. And I was like, I want to be the guy, who volunteers to get the ball. I put me in the game, put me on the line. I'll take the final shot. That's how Wonder Woman started to feel to me. And so then I started to think about how I can do this and how I can make it good.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, but you kind of tackled a little bit where you talked to Josh and Chip. This is the first time you've been back in continuity, full on monthly continuity.
It's been a while.
It's not double shipping, is it?
It is not. No, thank God. Okay. Also, geez, the way Daniel draws, you could double ship. He draws. Right. He's very fast. We're very far ahead. I'm writing issue 5 this week.
Ooh.
And 4 is pretty much in the can.
Nice.
So it's going to be very nice. So Daniel will be the first. I can guarantee at this point, Daniel will be on the first 5 without a break, straight through. Which how is many nice of those A-list star do that?
Oh, totally. And how many of those pages have you purchased so far?
He's digital. Daniel's digital. I can't purchase anything.
Good.
I saw Phil Hester, who is not digital, who's the last, right? And I bought this beautiful Gotham Year One.
Oh man, that's
from
a
Phil Hester, and that I love, and I loved this page, so I bought it.
Was that a Terrificon?
That was a Terrificon. He was
man. It was the week after San Diego, and I was like, because I live in Jersey, I could have driven to Connecticut without any problem, but I was like, I just got back from San Diego. I don't want to go to another con, but I looked at the list and I'm like, it's such an amazing roster. Damn it.
It was hard, dude. It was hard. It was because we were tired. I mean, we went
Oh
all
yeah,
out in San Diego, and Mitch and I were there together,
yeah,
and so we were like, "You again? You know, do you have anything to say to each other?" Um,
yeah.
but literally, I can't remember having more fun at a con than I had at Connecticut. It was everything I wanted from a con. It was just
That's awesome.
I got to I mean I went out to dinner with Walt and Wheezy, and Walt's telling me Walt Simonson wrote the first comic book I ever purchased, Avengers 300, which I had
That's
pages from that I had Walt sign. And so I got to talk to him. I got to talk to Carl Potts about Alien Legion, which is a
That's
huge
so
book with
cool.
me.
Yeah,
I got to talk Barbara Friedlander. Obviously, I did all this research into romance comics, and she wrote
yeah.
those romance comics from the 70s, and she was there. Uh, I hung out with Chris Claremont. I was his assistant. He doesn't remember, but I was his assistant 25 years ago. And so I was like reminding him of old stories, and we were laughing. I was standing there, and Chris Claremont, Art Adams Art and I are kind of friends. We did Thanksgiving together this year. But so they were the three of us were sort of having a conversation. I was thinking back. I was like, I remember reading your Alpha Flight X-Men crossover while my dad was on strike as a teacher. It was the only book I had, and here I am standing talking to you. My mind was just so incredibly blown. But it was full of moments just like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. The closest thing to that, I think I can try and match, and it's a joke. This is a joke. I was at Chiller Fest a few years ago,
Oh,
and my
too
ex-girlfriend.
dark.
Yeah, I know, Chiller Fest in Parsippany, New Jersey, and my ex-girlfriend was well, we won't get into it, but she was sleeping with Dean Stockwell at the time, and so I'm hanging out there, and
My mind just got blown.
I know. I'm talking to Dean Stockwell, Al from Quantum Leap, and then who walks over but Ernest
He's
Borgnine.
the star of The Secret Garden from 19.
I know, he's like a real actor. No, he's from Dune.
No,
like,
when I think of Dean Stockwell, I think of he was a child actor in the old movies that I watched.
Wow, that's
blows
funny.
my mind.
Yeah, no, I think of him as like, Al.
Yeah, of course he's Al.
From Dune,
also.
and
and, David Lynch movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But then who walks over but Ernest Borgnine?
Borgnine.
I know. So I got Al. I got Dean Stockwell and Ernest Borgnine, and they're palling around, and I'm in the conversation. I'm like, wow, I need to get out of here. It was cool though. They were fun. But yeah, that's not quite talking to living legends like Wheezy and Walt and Claremont and Arthur Adams, whom I've met all of them. They're all lovely people, but I've never shared a meal with any of them. But I did have a drink with Dean Stockwell. That was one thing.
I think you got to call your memoir Between Stockwell and Borgnine. That'd be
dude. Yeah. Well, the Borgnine thing, that was it. And it was so long ago. I took a picture with like a flip phone. So like I have this grainy from the back shitty picture, and I'm like, this no one will believe you. But you were saying you coordinated with or you're chatting with Josh and Chip. Is there much like continuity, cohesion, and coordination that you're doing now that you're back in continuity with these guys? Like, do you go like, all right, how do we do this again? What's going on in the next arc? Should we have Wonder Woman show up? Are we doing a thing, or do you just kind of go like, no, it's not connected. Don't worry about it.
No, very much so. No, this is much more connected than when I was on Rebirth, I would say.
Wow.
Rebirth, I mean, my Batman Rebirth is fairly self-contained. I mean, there's like the button which crossed over a little bit.
Yeah.
And there was like but usually I kind of bowed out for the stuff that crossed over, like Steve Orlando did the Monster Men stuff. And,
right.
Even the wedding issues, I didn't want to do any crossover issues, but my Tim Seeley is one of the best people I know. They're like, we'll give Tim Seeley 4 issues. I was like, all right, yeah. But this time going in, because they're like a little hesitant. They're like, Tom, are you sure you want to do this? We're gonna have to do all this sort of things if you have a new continuity. And I was like, I am all in. I am ready. I want this challenge. I was like, I want to refer, in the first issue, we refer to both, Batman's continuity, his current sort of schizophrenic. I think we'd refer to that. And we definitely refer to the new Superman LexCorp stuff.
Oh, cool.
And from the first issue, you see sort of hints of the sort of next year of the DCU when they've planned out. I can't tell you what those hints are, but they're in the background of the first issue.
Cool.
The first issue introduces a huge new villain who will be playing a big role in the DCU. Wonder Woman obviously has a really good rogues gallery.
Really?
People like. Well, I mean, they're crazy, and there's fun potential in all of them. But I mean, there's I mean, yeah, I mean, Silver Swan is cool, and Cersei and Grail and
Yeah,
Doctor
all right.
Psycho, even Angleman. I kind of feel like could be like a Kite Man of hers. You know, like
Yeah,
there's like
yeah,
there's some potential there's some cool stuff in there.
that's
But
great.
we wanted to give. I feel like everyone who comes to Wonder Woman says this, but and of course she has Ares as sort of the background villain of
Yeah,
all everything she does. Um, but someone Lex Luthor, someone Joker level
totally.
who could do that, because it's hard to. She has Cheetah, but Cheetah's not really a bad guy as much. She's much more of a gray kind of character. She lives
Yeah,
in
it's
between
tough
both
because she
worlds.
does like she flips them back and forth, and it would be like if there were periods where Joker like turned over a new leaf. Like it just you can't call them the big bad if there's runs like Sabretooth, where it's like, hey,
Yes.
remember when Sabretooth was on the X-Men? You know, like, oh well, then he can't really be like the most hardcore terrible person, can he? Because like at some point Xavier vouched for him, so you know,
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. We wanted someone complicated and totally evil. The way Lex Luthor is
yeah,
totally evil, the way the Joker is totally evil. So we're
exactly.
introducing that big new villain that's going to be, a big and central character in the DCU going forward. That's in Wonder Woman 1.
Oh, great.
His name is the Sovereign, in case you want to know. But
Oh,
that's a secret.
okay.
Don't tell people I said it.
All right, I'll write that out.
And no, we gotta give. You've listened this long. You might as well get something out of this.
Exactly. Why not? Why not?
And so yeah, but we're coordinating. I'm bringing in some big guest stars very early on,
Cool.
just to sort of make sure that we understand. I mean, because the goal is always that feeling you got when you were a kid, or to give that feeling back, where you're reading an issue of Captain America and Thor flies by. And he's like, Thor, where are you headed? He's like, oh, it's villains. It's Inferno. I got to go beat up a mailbox that turned into a demon.
Yes.
So like that feeling that like you're in a world where things matter, and that raises the stakes. I very much wanted
Exactly.
to participate in that, and just to say that the big changes are coming. Like we're adding Trinity, we're adding Wonder Woman's daughter. It's not a theoretical change. That's a huge change to DCU that's going to impact every single book.
Yeah.
So we very much wanted that. So yeah, and it does help that Look, Josh is everybody's best friend. He's one of the most wonderful social people in comics. But Josh and I have had a weekly phone call every single week of our lives for like 5 years now, where we sort of talk about the state of comics. And Chip is just a super wonderful, easy person to work with. So the fact that the three of us are very good friends, go back very far. Chip and I won our first Eisners like next to each other, the same table. We have a history with each other.
Exactly.
And so it does help that we're kind of all tied together and sort of very much support each other. Very much like I want Batman to be the biggest. Batman should be the lead book. I mean, Chip should take it by their reins and make it the best thing possible. And I want Superman to be this ideal, brilliant character that helps us launch this book. I want their success, and I think and hopefully every once in a while they want mine, or at least they're
I'm
not
sure.
fighting too hard behind my back.
Exactly. So Trinity, speaking of her, can you talk a little bit about the process of like developing / designing what Trinity's all about? I know we haven't gotten too much. Like we don't really know the history of the Lassos. We don't know a lot about her. But can you talk about like where she kind of came from? Like like was this kind of like the thing you had to crack where you're like, oh, I've got my in now for Wonder Woman?
Yeah, that was
Her
the first.
daughter.
That was the first idea I had when I first sort of approached it. Before I had the idea for Sovereign, before I had the idea of what sort of you're going to see in Wonder Woman #1, was the idea that, and it comes from Mitch Garrett, who I work with, so often. He's so brilliant. I don't want him to be a writer, so I should say this idea doesn't come from him.
Yeah,
But
of course.
he had the, we're working on convincing them to do an absolute Mr. Miracle, and they're into it. But one of the things they're like, do some extra stuff for it. And Mitch had the idea of doing a story where the Super Sons, who Mitch is a huge fan of the Super Sons, the Pete Tomasi stuff, was babysit for little Jacob, who's Mr. Miracle's kid. And he's like, let's do a story about that. And I was like, that's amazing. That would be super fun. And then I just stole that idea from him. Because to me it was like there's the Batman's son and Superman's son are babysitting someone. Who should they be babysitting? They should be babysitting Wonder Woman's daughter. That's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And as soon as I have 3 children, I have a 13-year-old daughter who loves Wonder Woman, has a Neil Adams Wonder Woman art above her that she sleeps next to every day.
That's awesome.
And so I immediately just had it out. I was like, I went to my kids. I was like, what do you guys think of, Batman's son and Superman's son taking care of Wonder Woman? And immediately they 1,000 questions at me. Like, how old is it? How is it? Where are they going? Like, what is, like, they were, that idea just appealed to them, like on just a basic level.
Yeah.
Of Superman has a son, but who's Wonder? And they started asking me, like, who's the father?
Yeah.
How old is she? Like, where does she come from? What are her powers? Is she an Amazon? What's her personality?
Right.
And they were so into it so fast. I was like, this is the idea. This is
you're like, I tapped into something kind of like primal. Like this is a good idea. Yeah.
And let's face it, Sal, between you and me, I'm terrible at making up new characters.
That's not true.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Gotham Girl is setting the world on fire right now. Yeah,
I think the only reason
show.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, look, okay, so there's no spin-off movie of Gotham Girl, but there aren't a lot of Gotham Girl stories out there. Like I feel like people just didn't key into that. But
I managed to be on Batman for 85 issues without creating a villain that anybody remembers. Scott was on it for 1 issue and we had Court of Owls. So I had 84 more chances than Scott, and I missed it 84 times.
Yeah, right. That's fair.
So I'm good at taking other people's properties and sort of putting a spin on them. But the only thing I've created that has had sort of lasting value is Viv Vision.
Yeah, big deal. People love her.
Yeah, people love her, and I'm so proud of what's become of her. But besides that, there's not much original material I have added. Which made me all the more pissed off in the fact that I did not name Trinity.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is not my name. It comes from my friend Daryl Taylor, who's a podcaster, who's an old friend of mine. I was bouncing names off him, and I had utterly horrible names. Obviously, Wonder Woman already had a daughter, for people who don't know, in old continuity 50 years ago, pre-crisis. Yes. There was Earth 1, Earth 2 Wonder Woman, and Earth 2 Wonder Woman had a daughter named Fury.
Right.
Fury, who and her last name was Trevor, so obviously a daughter of Trevor.
Naturally.
And so that was one option we could, but we want to do something new. We want to do something different. And that was also, the Golden Earth 2 was not Earth 1. That's a different Wonder Woman. That's a different sort of thing. And I had already done Helena Wayne, so I didn't want to do the exact same thing again.
That's fair. Yeah.
So we were looking for a sort of new name, and I was bouncing names off my buddy Daryl, and he threw Trinity at me. And I was like, oh, God damn it. I was like, no, that's too Matrixy. He's like, dude, it's been
20 years.
20 years, yeah. I think it's been 24 years. So God, we're old.
Oh yeah, oh no.
And then I immediately tuned into Trinity. I was like, why is she named Trinity? I was like, oh, not only should she complete the Trinity of Batman, Superman, but also she has these the three lassos thing immediately came to me. And I was like, oh, that's utterly perfect. And I adored it from the beginning. But I was like, God, if I'm finally creating a character that could be big and I didn't even fucking name her. Oh, I'm the worst. I'm the absolute worst. Daryl named her.
Yeah.
So I was immediately very mad at him for coming up with that.
Of course.
I couldn't think of anything better. And although now, if you have ideas, right now we're trying to name what to call these 3 people together.
Like the Trinity, like the new Trinity.
Yeah, the new Trinity. What's it called?
You can't call it because she is called Trinity, so it's
you can't call them the Trinity or the new Trinity. And obviously, there's already a Trinity. It's the original. So we need a sort of a new, and they can't call me Super Sons because they're now, and Super Sons and Daughter sounds weird. So we're working on it. It'll be in the book. We have some ideas. I'm not saying they're good, but one of them will hit.
Yeah, like Triad or something. It's got to be
Triad. Sounds like a gang.
It is a gang. Yeah, no, it's true. But all right.
So that's where Trinity came from, and her personality. Because I wanted to give her something. When Damian stepped off, he was fully formed the way Grant brought Damian into the world. John took a little while to find his personality. I felt it was when Taylor kind of started writing him and kind of matured him a little bit. Obviously, John had the weird age gaps that he was a baby, then he was 13, and then he was 17.
Exactly.
Over the course of a year. So that was odd. But yeah, finding a personality for, and then we sort of, I don't want to say a copy, but I found someone in a sitcom I really liked. And I was kind of like, oh, I like this kind of person. It was this idea that, like, it's that kind of arrogance that reveals vulnerability, where you're just telling everybody how good you are all the time, which what you're really saying is, I need your help. You know, that kind of thing was what we went with her.
Yeah.
And so yes, that's how we. And to design her, all I did was Daniel got her. I named her Lizzie. My niece. I've named a lot of people after my niece. Ruthie is named after my niece from Super.
Yes.
A niece of mine from Supergirl. And I named Alice from Superman Up in the Sky is another one of my nieces. And my daughter Claire, Gotham Girl, was Claire Clover. So she's had one. And I hate naming things after my kids because I just hate because I eventually have these superheroes have to be sort of punched in the
somebody
face.
Else's,
or somebody else's. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I have a niece whose name is Lizzie. She's my goddaughter. So I started with that, and then I was like, why would her name be Lizzie? And I, of course, I was like, where are we? And then I looked up, as we said before, Marston was in a throuple, and the two wives helped him write, and one of the wives is named Elizabeth.
Oh, that's perfect.
So it was very kids. Elizabeth and Olive were the two. My brain is right. So yeah. So I just told DC it was after that Elizabeth, but it was really my little my niece.
Nice.
And the name Lizzie is kind of cool and modern and hip, and it's kind of Pride and Prejudice, obviously, starring Lizzie, which is my daughter's favorite book. So that also.
Oh, that's great.
So all that stuff that's where Lizzie comes from. That's where Trinity comes from. That's where her personality comes from. Her design was all Daniel. All I said was that she had a ponytail because my daughter wears a ponytail 24/7, and I wanted to give her a ponytail. So a brown hair and a ponytail is my daughter. So she has brown hair and a ponytail.
How much of this series would you say is like divided between like the present day Diana and the future of Lizzie Trinity?
Oh, it's 99% present day.
Okay.
It is the story. What we saw in 800 was a flash forward, a 20-year flash forward in my mind. So at that point, Trinity is 19, and Damien's in his early 20s, or I guess the Damien and John are in their 20s, but the gap in between. So in the current continuity in Wonder Woman #1, this daughter has not been born yet. The story that we're watching is the story of her birth. The stuff that we missed with both Damien and John, which was the story of, for lack of a better word, their creation, the first moment. That was part of my pitch to DC is everyone knows that the #1 rated show of all time was the season finale of MASH.
Yes.
The #2 rated show of all time was the birth of Lucy's baby from I Love Lucy.
Oh.
So I was like, that moment is something that we've never seen, and I very much wanted to work with it. So that was the pitch from the beginning. This is the story of how Trinity comes about and sort of what she means and what her destiny is and how she plays a role in DC Universe. That said, I think I said this in threads, but they're allowing me to do some backups later on in the series, and as part of those fun backups, I'm going to get to do stories in the future with this, whatever we're calling them, the triad or whatever it is. The three of them. And the goal being to, I want to create a little book that you can give to both, like, a teenager who wants to laugh and an 8-year-old girl who wants to read stories about
powerful
a little girl whose two older brothers are Batman and Superman.
That's kind of dope. Yeah, I love that.
So that just, so you're going to see some flash forwards. We're going to go in and out of when she's 5 years old, when she's 13 years old, when she's 20 years old. We're going to see sort of some future flash forwards of these three people interacting and what that dynamic is, because that dynamic to me is something fun and new and cool.
Definitely.
So that'll be. But the main story, the DC thriller, is in the present day. It's about Wonder Woman. It's about a new status quo for her. It's about a new mission for her. It's about her, like I said, kicking ass as the Wolverine of the DCU, getting it done.
Yeah. Moving right along, I wanted to ask about really quick, Human Target. Congratulations on your Eisner win.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Are we getting
that book was me being like a Bill Belichick getting out of Tom Brady's way. Like that was I was like, okay, let Greg Smallwood cook. That was
totally.
So, I'm super proud of that award, but it very much belongs to what Smallwood did. Smallwood killed it on that book.
That book was perfection. It was just such a tour de force. It's what comics should be. We just finished getting the volume 2 of that hardcover. Are we getting a collected volume?
I hope
of
so.
Everything.
I hope so. I mean, the riddle with these things people ask me, because Supergirl's not out in hardcover yet either, is so people say, is hardcover gonna come? I was like, it'll only come if you buy the trade. And if I tell you that the hardcover is coming, you won't buy the trade, so the hardcover won't come. It's like Heisenberg's hardcover.
Yeah.
The more you think the hardcover is coming, the less it's coming. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
So I have no inside information. I would imagine, yes, eventually they're going to collect it. But if that hardcover doesn't sell, if nobody buys it, they won't do it. So, but the two volumes are beautiful. They're designed by Greg. Greg designed them.
Oh, no shit.
They went. I mean, I'm sure it was a collaboration with DC, but they went to Greg and said, "How do you want to do this?" And that's how he wanted to do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they have that sort of, because he's one of the best designers in comics. They have that feel. They're beautiful volumes. They don't have the special in them, so the future volume will have that, the sort of special we did to fill in the gap between. But I recently went back and when I got the second volume, I read the whole thing and I was like, I don't know what more I can do. This is as good comics as I can make. I can't I don't know, whatever hill I'm trying to climb. That was it. I climbed it. And now I don't know what the fuck to do with myself. I was like, I love this. I love what it is.
Yes, it's incredible. Real quick, how many pages of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow do you own?
None. Zero. Big fat none.
No, because there's no way that Bilquis does digitals.
She does not. She is traditional. I'm gonna see Bilquis when I go to XP the Brazil Con in December. So hopefully I can. But what happened with every time she'd announce, okay, I'm selling. I never want to ask an artist for a page.
No, yeah.
I'm stealing from them, and they will always give the writer a page if you ask. But
sure,
it just feels schmucky to me to ask.
Yeah, well, I feel like you could probably get that. What was the issue? I don't remember the issue number, but it's the one that you wrote over again in a day.
Yeah, 6. It was 6.
Yeah, issue 6. I figure there's got to be something from 6 that you got to get.
I wish but so what would happen? She'd announce the issue, and then someone would come in and pre-buy the whole issue, and so they would announce the sale, and the sale would go off before it started.
Oh, damn it!
So that happened over and over, and I missed buying out. I've seen some of the pages. I've seen people have brought me. They're very rare. One of them went on Heritage, so they let one of them. It wasn't like a great page. It didn't have Supergirl on or anything. Yeah. So I considered going after it, but I was like, but I don't know. I don't own a single piece of Supergirl art except in my house.
That's outrageous.
Generally speaking, I don't like owning art. I don't love owning art from my own books.
Except for the 12 pages that are literally behind you.
Except for those, and the fact that I just spent a ton of money buying this stuff.
For that, so you may want to reevaluate that concept.
And I own 4 Mitch Garrett's originals, which are very rare. So,
but how could you not? Like that's, I mean, yeah, I understand that.
But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when I buy art, I don't want to buy my own stuff. I want to buy stuff that has. First of all, I like art that has letters on it, which obviously none of mine do.
Well, because they're your words, yeah.
Yeah, because I would hate to stare at my words and say, yeah, it feel, whenever like I have when I have like a Batman thing that Jorge gave me, and I stared. I was like, oh, I should have done those panels differently. There's always everything I do. I was like, I could make it a little better. I don't want to stare at something and try to improve it all the day.
No, definitely. I was just thinking about Gotham City Year One, apropos of the beautiful page you just showed off. Gotham City Year One, a book that I was like, nah. And then we met at last year's New York Comic Con, and you were like, here. You literally gave me issue 1. You're like, here, just take it, you Philistine. And I was
good.
Like, all right. And I read it, and I've been singing its praises the whole like ever since issue 2. I think this book is another phenomenal. Like it's Phil Hester's best work. It's like some of your best work. Like it is such a good book, and gut wrenching and heartbreaking and real and true, but also like gritty and noiry. And it's like the hardcover just came out. People need to buy this book and own it and talk about it. And oh man, what a good effing book that is. That's all.
I'm so proud of it. We just had the order I wrote things. I wrote, I think it was Human Target, Supergirl, then Gotham City Year One. Whatever coffee I was drinking during that ride, I should have.
You got to get that blend.
I got to get that blend, man. That was work. Yeah, the hardcover just came out. Look, this is another book like Supergirl that nobody bought. Now I love it. I cannot be more proud of it.
Yeah.
So I want to push it in trade, and hopefully it does what happened to Supergirl, because it's complicated. It deals with
Yeah.
issues of race and class,
Yeah.
and it's super drenched and straight up noir. It has a wonderful sort of protagonist, and
Mm-hmm.
it's sexy, and people betray each other left, right, and center. And there's wonderful, just if you're a Batman fan, I mean, because it exists out. It has the origin of, how it has Joker's kind of true hidden origin. It has a true hidden origin of why, how Thomas Wayne ended up walking around the wrong alley.
Yep.
It has the origin of why it's called Crime Alley.
Yeah, that Crime Alley reveal, I was like, oh shit! I need to go back and reread the whole damn book because I know there's more. You just snuck the Court of Owls in there.
Yeah, there's the Court of Owls are in there, are in the background. So there's a lot of sort of Gotham lore that you can get out of it, but it's also like, if you just want to go to the beach and read like a pulpy,
That's
sexy,
right.
You just want to be like, when I go into, you read my Batman run, how does this cross over this? How does this do this? You get Gotham City year one. You're going to have 2 hours where you can take off from the world. It's like,
totally.
it's. I mean, it was modeled very much after Darwin's Brilliant Parker books, which I just think are some of the best graphic novels of all time. And that's what it is. You will pick it up. You will disappear for 2 hours into the 1960s of Gotham City, into a world that's like Chinatown, that's gross and gruesome, where one man is trying to do good in a world full of sin. And I absolutely love that book. And please buy it, because I would do those forever. It was so much fun. I cannot tell you. It's so much. I talked at the beginning how hard Wonder Woman was to write. This was the easiest thing in the world to write. I could not. Every day I tell my wife, I was like, they're never going to let me do this again. There's no superheroes in it.
I could feel there is a Batman cameo in it, like where it's like kind of it's bookended with Batman, and I was like, that feels like someone just going like, could you please just put Batman in like one page, and then we could put Batman on all the freaking promotional material. Just put Batman in there, just one panel. I'll take one panel if you just put Batman in it, please, for the love of God.
Do you know who that person was? That was my inner voice.
And then Batman shows up.
My editor was like, why Batman's in the end of the book? I was like, we have to put him in somewhere. Nobody's going to buy this book. It has to have somebody in a mask in it at some point. That was me. I don't know, not trusting myself, or just feeling in my heart. I was like, we got to put some superhero content in this.
And the one that you got the comps. Do we know when that hardcover comes out? Because that's one of those.
Here they are. I can show you. Oh, look at this live comps, and it's it's so it's a beautiful one. It's got it has Hester art on the front and back. But then you take this thing off, and you get this. Look how pretty this is.
Yeah.
The cover. Look at this. Look how sexy this book looks.
I need like a poster in this. I wish DC made more posters of their covers. That would be something that
and the art inside with the Jordy Blake colors. It's just
Everyone's doing their best work. That's the thing. Like it's everyone's like best stuff.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put a link in the description. You can buy it. Buy a pre-order the copy. Like I'll put it in the description. You can in the comments. You can pre-order the book. I have to make it available. It's just
take a second. Read a pulpy novel.
Yeah,
the world's going insane. Take a break from it.
Take it to a simpler time when it was really complicated and terrible. Not like today.
But it was about, I'm from LA, a city that kind of fell in my lifetime, where I thought it was a city on the hill, and it turns out to sort of have this sort of pulse. Scott and I used to have this, not a fight, but like the interpretations of our Batman. Where Scott grew up in Manhattan, I grew up in LA, and New York is a dirty, dreary city that at its heart is kind of lovely and wonderful. And LA is a beautiful, loving city that at its heart is kind of cruel and wicked. And I think like it kind of explained both of our takes on Batman.
Oh my God, that's pretty brilliant. Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Scott's stories are all full of like, oh, everything is awful, but at the end it's hope. Like
it's hope.
Like, I feel like the Batman was very inspired by Scott. It's Batman, holding a fire and walking through a thing. And my things are like, no, it's in the outside it's good, but on the inside everyone's damaged and hurting.
That's fair.
And trying to find love and it falling apart. Like, that's the part of the Batman that was mine, where he's like reaches out to her and can't kiss her. It's like, oh, that's pretty, okay.
Oh, yeah.
If it's sad and emo, that's where Tom lives.
Totally, yeah. Well, that's there's gold in our hills.
Yeah.
Has there ever been you've a lot of your work, this is kind of, we're gonna wrap up, but like a lot of your stuff doesn't really lend itself to sequelization. Mr. Miracle 2, no. Human Target, Supergirl, Gotham City. Have you ever gotten any pressure, or have you ever felt pressure yourself to go like, we should probably do a sequel to that one?
I mean, look, I'm buyable. Like I would.
I'm for sale, folks. I mean, listen, we could go back. Yeah.
I mean, if I was, like in Human Target, it was all the JLI members, but I purposely didn't put Scott and Barta in because I was like, these are off the table for me. I don't talk about.
You did, like, you talked about them. You said everything you said.
I said everything, so they don't appear in that book. Same with Danger Street that I know where the New Gods are in there. Again, Barta and Mr. Miracle don't appear in that book because I was like, I need them to rest. First of all, no one's ever asked me. I've never been asked to do sort of a prop. People are like, oh God, nobody needs more Danger Street. Those are the most obscure characters. Omega Men 2, like, was the lowest selling book. Let's see if we can do it again. So, although actually, Omega Men 2, I did have a pitch for that back in the day. But no, what has happened, and knock on wood, is that a lot of these have become sort of very elevated. Stuff like Vision, stuff like Supergirl, Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures, where I wouldn't want to touch it because I was afraid I would break it. Like, I just feel like it's such a delicate kind of thing that if I sort of messed with it, it would shatter.
Totally.
Which is stupid because they made Godfather 2 and it didn't, and Godfather 1 is fine. And even look, I know there are people who throw it under the bus, but DKR 2 I think has some awesome moments in it. Like, I'm glad it exists. It's not my favorite comic of all time, but I'm glad it exists in the world.
I've come around on that book in a weird way. I think that, like, DKR 2, because like Varley is clearly like learning on the job to do like digital colors, and she's so excited by like she's like, oh, this is a cool idea, and it's like, that's cool, but maybe like don't do it on this. But I feel like if we could get another pass on the colors, and I don't know, DK2, I've come around a bit where I'm like, what, it would make a baller animated adaptation. I'd take an animated adaptation of Dark Knight Strikes Again. I think it'd be kind of cool
with all the roller skating,
with all that shit. Like, because it's such a kinetic book. Like, it's just, you can really feel like Frank like playing with it, like having fun. Like, he's just having fun, and getting paid top dollar for it. But
what I like with that book is there's, you can still see like the brilliance of Frank Miller. That it's absolutely unmatched in the terms of, like, I've said this before, like, the best. People have written Captain America for 700 issues, and the best Captain America story is 8 panels in Reborn. Like, look, people have written Plastic. I mean, look, the Cole Plastic Man's, but like the best Plastic Man story is 3 panels in that book. DKR 2. The best Adam story ever is in DKR 2. Give. If Frank was so far in his game, he could take any character for 4. The best Green Arrow story is in DKR with the missing arm. So, like, I just love how he could take a side character and in 5 panels be like, this is why he's awesome and this is why he's good. And he does it a few times in DKR too. So he does.
No, I honestly, I will tell you, I felt like the when the heroes all spring into action and Plastic Man's becoming the wrench and everything's culminating. I'm like, I felt something, and I was like very upset with that book. Like, when I read the first issue, I'm like, all right, okay, and then issue 2, I'm like, okay, no, I am not happy.
Dude, when he gets Elongated Man to free Plastic, and he's like, why are we freeing Plastic Man? And he's like, do you realize he could kill us all?
He could kill us all.
He could kill us all.
I
was like, oh my God damn, he could kill us all. Haunts me.
I do need to reread it.
My first arc of Batman is my worst arc.
No, the first one. That's fun.
That's the worst. Which is depressing because you're always like, read my Batman, but don't start at the beginning. Like,
start with I Am Bane.
I like the first issue. But the first arc, I didn't know how to write a 6-issue series. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was so fresh. I was a little baby comic book writer, which is ridiculous because I was 35, so I was old. But I had been writing comics for a year and a half before I got Batman #1.
You were poached from Marvel for that, right? Like, they were like,
yeah, but I mean, Vision was only issue 6. I mean, it wasn't even like, it wasn't. I was way unprepared to take on the Batman, and I did not. I knew how to write a 12-issue series at that point because I'd done that 3 times by then, but I did not know how to write a 6-issue arc for that, because I had this like deep idea of like what makes Batman. I remember it's like sitting in my grandmother's house and being like, what makes Batman interesting? I was like, well, what makes Batman interesting is he has no superpowers, and yet he has, he's the hero of this city. I was like, well, could someone with superpowers be better in the city than him? I was like, that's something I want to explore. And that sounds like a deep 12-issue series about Batman and a superpower, and why Batman is special, why Batman with nothing succeeds more than a Superman level person. But I didn't get any of that cool stuff in the first I Am Gotham, because I just didn't know how to translate it. So it just goes very quickly. Now there's cool art. David Finch is out of his mind, and there's some funny moments. And there are people who to this day say they love it, but I always look at it like, oh. And then Gotham Girl is still setting the world on fire, so we still have
absolutely
that.
breakout character. Everyone loves her.
Breakout,
She got her own spin-off series after she appeared on Gotham, and
she's
she's
in all the cartoons and all that.
They're going to bring her in from the DCEU into the new DCU. It's a huge thing. No,
yeah, that's right. Scott started out Court of Owls, and I started out with Gotham Girl. Good job. I still like her power set. She had a good power set. The idea that she only had 3 years of powers, and the more she used them, the closer she got to death. That's a direct Chris Claremont. We'll go back to Chris Claremont. That was the direct. Chris told me when I was his intern. He's like, the key to superpowered people is that their power is their curse. Like that's how he felt about every character he wanted to write. Their power is their curse. Rogue's power, she can't touch people. If she touches someone, but if Cyclops' power, you can never look someone in the eyes. He's like,
that's just X-Men.
Well, that's who Chris Claremont is. He's X-Men. What do you?
I know, but that doesn't translate to everything. We don't need We don't need a Gotham Spawn who's going to run out of freaking power.
Well, I didn't know. I was a baby writer. I told you this.
That's true. No,
I have to look at Wonder Woman 5 tomorrow, and I don't know how it's going to be.
I'm sure people will love it.
Fridays I edit, so I've written. So it's done. Like Wonder Woman, so I have to see if it's any good. I'm worried. I'm really worried. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna see some kangaroos. I know at least that's
good. There are kangaroos coming. Wonder Woman 1 is real good. It's a good comic. It's 30 pages. They gave me the whole issue. And Daniel does all 30, and it's epic. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's an epic comic with it introduces. Yeah, it's a Wonder Woman like you've always seen, yet a Wonder Woman you've never seen before.
I like that. Or the Wonder Woman you always thought existed. Like you just go, oh yeah, this is like Wonder Woman all the time, and you go back and you're like, oh no, this is what I thought Wonder Woman was. It's like a video game remake.
If you love Wonder Woman, this is the book for you. If you hate Wonder Woman, this is the book for you. I just made that up just now. I made that up. That's amazing. They'll never know I'm a marketing genius. That's never.
You are. Yeah, they should be paying you twice, man. I'm telling you. If you could do Wolverine over at Marvel, would it be a 12-issue mini or would it be an ongoing series?
At one point, Marvel. This is going to sound super arrogant. I really apologize for it. But I was. They asked me. They said you can have. Choose a book, like they were coming after me. They're like,
pick a book, any book. Don't leave.
Yeah. That's not that never happens in your career. So this is a very rare.
Yeah.
And I chose Wolverine and Captain America.
Like together.
And I was going to do a thing where, Wolverine had done something awful, and Captain America was hunting him, and we saw one side of it from Wolverine's point of view and one side from Captain. It was called The Hunting, I think. And they would do 2 books where they were parallel books where both were the protagonists of their own book. And that was my pitch at the time.
Oh my God.
That's in Sandman's library now, never written. So.
Yeah, who drew it in that library?
I don't know who did.
Come on. Well, Greg's over there now. Maybe it was Capullo.
Yeah, maybe it was Capullo. It was the other Kubert I always wanted to work with.
Adam. He's good. That's the Wolverine artist. Yes.
Yes, he's the Wolverine artist.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to clip that. There's no way. I'm gonna get a note.
It's fine. They're fine. DC. Wait, we did Anagram together. We're still friends.
That's true. Yeah.
Amalgam. Sorry, not Anagram.
Amalgam.
Anagram was a different sort of.
I was like, Anagram. Yeah.
It's very late. I'm sorry.
It is. It's time to wrap up. Thanks for being here, man. Thank you everybody for watching.
My
Check out Wonder
pleasure.
Woman.
Thank you, Sal, for doing this and for being I don't want to say cheerleader of comics, but like
Oh yeah.
comics are conversation, and you are out there leading that conversation, and you're very appreciated.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it, man. I appreciate you. You're elevating the system. I do appreciate that. Buy Gotham City Year One. It's in the comments. Pre-order Wonder Woman number. Is it number 1 or 801, or is it legacy numbered?
It is number 1. I think it's a /801, or like the sort of Marvel style. But this is a Wonder Woman number 1. Again, I go for the art germ cover because I think that's going to sell it the fastest. There are some awesome. There's a Jumpa cover. The Sempor cover is beautiful.
Yeah.
But just, I'm just telling you guys, it's going to sell out, and you're going to be able to resell it. Buy 2 copies, sell 1 on eBay, and then buy the other covers.
Yeah. Well, final order cutoff is the end of August, so tell your comic book store now that you want it. I'm going to right now. So, well,
and I will be doing 2 huge signings. I'll be at Third Eye Comics, or the biggest comic book store near me in DC, which is in here in Maryland, and I will be doing a Midtown signing in New York City. So if you are on the I-95 corridor, you can find me to sign Wonder Woman number 1 the week it comes out. So buy a comic so you can get me to sign it.
Hell yeah. I will definitely roger that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. See you next time, everybody.